Well, it seems the PALWORLD controversy is kind of heating up a little bit. We now have a statement from the Pokemon Company, from Nintendo, over the situation of PALWORLD because they've been inundated with people trying to report PALWORLD for copyright infringement at this point. Where does this all lie? Are they infringing on Nintendo's copyright of Pokemon? And is there actually a case here? I'm not entirely sure, but let's take a look. Well, before we get into the video, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to comment down below. What's your favorite PAL in PALWORLD right now? Which one do you like the most? As PALWORLD blows up, could Nintendo successfully sue the controversial Pokemon with Guns game? Now, PALWORLD is over 8 million in sales and still holding strong with 1.2 concurrent players of the game last time I looked. These are extreme numbers right now. This is something absolutely amazing to see. However, there is controversy that's come out mostly because of someone that's gone along on Twitter and scaled models using a 3D modeler and overlaying PALWORLD versus Pokemon models for the game. And it's tough to say where this is really going to lie. Nintendo could sue and try and go through the courts and stuff like that, but then you've got to prove these things. You've got to prove that the wire models were used. And Discovery, if it goes through and then Discovery happens, then they could easily seize the computers and be like, okay, this is how they made these characters. They had an artist on hand. The artist turned around and made the creatures. You gotta wonder, you gotta say, you know, the Pokemon game with guns truly was inspired by Pokemon. It really does look like it was inspired by Pokemon, but the game in itself is a completely different game. The whole game as a whole would be its own IP, but it's then every little detail in it. Is this a stolen asset? Is this a stolen asset? Where does it really lie? And that's up to the courts to decide. And I am not entirely sure myself. PALWORLD is pretty much the hottest game in the world with an incredible 8 million copies sold in 6 days after going on sale on Steam and Xbox. It's also on Microsoft Game Pass. So when you add in Game Pass and Microsoft behind here, there's a little bit more there, because that means Microsoft might throw money at PALWORLD to say, listen, you guys need to fight this. So there's big players involved here also, and Nintendo and Microsoft. Recently, Microsoft, it was revealed that they were targeting Nintendo for sale. So there is so many moving cogs in this one. I'm not entirely sure where it's going to end up. Am I for it? Am I against it? I can't even say, because I think the game is a great game, and I think it's something that is muchly needed on the market, and I think it's a great competition for Nintendo's Pokemon. I think it puts it to the task and says, hey, you guys over at Nintendo and Game Freak, you need to step it up a little bit and give us what we want, and the game we want is what we see in PALWORLD. Now, this game, I don't think is going to go anywhere, because it would probably just get settled if there was anything that does warrant that, and we would still have the game at this point. I think the game is a success out there. Now, developments are fast-moving and dramatic. Developer Pocket Pair has said its staff has received threats, which is true, amid these Pokemon ripoff claims. And that's part of the fandoms here. I've seen it with other games as well, where the community, when they want to back something so desperately, they will pull out it's no holds bars. Everyone will have their own say, and they will go where they want to go with it. And sometimes it's just loose lips are absolutely ridiculous at this point. Nintendo has moved quickly to remove the eye-catching Pokemon mod too. Yeah, there was a Pokemon mod that was being released on Nexus, and it's been taken down by the Nintendo company. From my understanding, it says the copyright owners have taken it down. And this mod was to be overlaid onto PALWORLD, make it look like a Pokemon world. And so that gets taken down. So the company issued statement in itself could also be towards that. Now, Inquiries regarding other companies' games. We have received many inquiries regarding another company's game released in January 2024. We have not granted any permission for the use of Pokemon intellectual property or assets in that game. We intend to investigate and take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to Pokemon. We will continue to cherish and nurture each and every Pokemon and its world, and work to bring the world together through Pokemon in the future. The Pokemon Company. This statement is very softly worded. There's not a lot behind the statement other than, I think, right now to quell people from inundating Nintendo and the Pokemon Company. Everyone's saying, listen, this game's out there, you guys need to look into this. I would imagine they have gotten so many requests and inquiries over this. It's absolutely ridiculous at this point, and this is where the fandoms of these games go. They're rabid in this case, absolutely rabid. And what more do you want? Is this not the game everyone wants to play right now? Is this not what people want out there on the market? I don't get this ultimate, you've got to defend it to the death sort of Pokemon. Game Freak and Nintendo hasn't put out a game that looks and plays this well. Yeah, the game's still in early access and it's playing better than other games that we've seen put out there by Nintendo. You know, and a lot of people are requesting that this come to the Nintendo Switch because this feels like it should be on the Nintendo Switch. This feels like a game that you should be able to easily pick up and play, and this is what people want. Party atmosphere that is really that Nintendo branding, and that's why I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised everyone is really enjoying what they see. Now, I'm just going to point out a few things here. The person that put up this whole analogy in these videos about the wire modeling being the same or likeness of the wire modeling, their account was created in January 2024. They are new to Twitter, and that is a little suspect. I'm generally, when you see an account like this where it's new, you've got to wonder what's going on behind the scenes. Is this somebody that works at Nintendo or PALWORLD? Is this someone that is known in the industry? Is this something that is going forward? And apparently they're doing this because they think it's disgusting how much PALWORLD glorifies animal abuse. It's a video game. The animal abuse is kind of not really there. It's a very much different style of game, and that's an ethical standard. It's like PETA coming out and making their own statements against the game, which they have, and wanting a vegan option in the game, which I can tell you right now, it's not going to happen. It's a video game, get over it. This isn't really that good of a statement to come out and say, oh, you're doing this because of the animal abuse in the game. This is very strange, and almost as like it's there to bait for clicks. But it does bring forward the whole fair use and derivative works possibility behind this. Japan doesn't have a fair use law. They generally just follow copyright law in the United States, but they do not have a fair use doctrine. So now it comes down to the derivative works. And if the derivative works of PALWORLD, of the models that have been used in PALWORLD, were derivative from Pokemon models in a 3D render, then there might be an issue. And that's where I'm sitting here on the line, because a lot of the Pokemon works themselves are based on real life creatures. So where does the derivative work actually fall from? Does it fall from Pokemon, or does it fall from real life entities put into a 3D modeling? Now, when it comes down to it, it could just be something as simple as it is a very lazy way to get to market. So this person here, apparently after being inundated by very many posts for PALWORLD, they've turned around and made their own analysis on it, talking about tracing and scaling. And we have seen this in Magic the Gathering. We've seen artists take these shortcuts where they will trace over. They took a artist rendition of Ugin or Nicobolus off DeviantArt, put it on their card after tracing over it and adding it to it. So part of the card was actually designed by someone else and they got caught. It got caught and shown. And this is kind of that same thing, except the difference here is with the modeling, these wire frames. Like, they're what has been claimed here is that the wire frame for the 3D model of PALs were originally wire frames of Pokemon. And they do make the point here of saying it's entirely new model, but built on top of an existing image. This is fairly common practice for modeling, but doing it to recreate an existing artwork that you do not have permission for is essentially 3D tracey, lazy at best, infringement at worst. So you take the inspiration, you take the model of these wireframes. It's a lazy way to bring the thing to market, but in Japan there might be more behind it, because then it becomes a derivative work of the original model and it's no longer fair use. The model being out there isn't fair use. This is part of the things in Japan that make it a lot more different. And because PALWORLD and Nintendo are both based in Japan, they wouldn't necessarily be seeing a US lawsuit in this case. You would be seeing this coming in Japan over copyright issues. I don't know where that settles. Now, talking about a settlement, I think that would be where it would probably go very, very quickly with the amount of sales, and that this project would be continuing out there unless Nintendo goes for blood, in which case you could see it be brought down, you could see all the assets being lost, we could see all our money just disappear from this game, but I don't see it. I think a reasonable judge won't issue an injunction in this case, and at the same time, you can argue that it's parody, but parody is covered under fair use and not derivative work. So that's where things get really murky in this. That's where I'm not even sure where it's going to lie. It's up to Nintendo to sit there and go forward with this. As they would say, the Pokeball is in their court. Anyway, I am your proud Canadian Phoenix, Cindershadow. I'm signing off here. What do you think about this one? Because I'm kind of on the fence on it now, because there's a lot of differences here. I think PALWORLD has changed things enough that it wouldn't be considered a derivative work, but that's not for me to decide. That's for it to be proven into a court of law. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you again very soon.